There may be no Israel at the end. There may be no Israel at the end. And this is a warning coming from none other than a U.S. veteran military, Douglas McGregor. This is what he said. Why? That's what we want to find out in this video. Why he's saying, and if you take a look at the recent developments, it makes all sense that Israel is actually losing this battle. They lost the PR campaign very miserably because Muslims are waking up, and thanks to all the Muslims who are watching and very, very interested in what is happening with the Palestinian-Israel conflict, because once you watch, once you let us know your voice, your opinion, they matter. They matter. So keep on getting engaged in these affairs. But this is coming from this individual, Douglas McGregor, is something I found to be very, very interesting, to say the least. Let's take a listen.
My great fear is that if this regional war unfolds as I think it might, there may be no Israel at the end of it.
Colonel, it appears they're really going in the opposite direction with Blinken's comments yesterday and now Erdogan coming out and saying, hey, we're happy to mediate a peace here.
I don't think people understand the implications. People are viewing this as Hamas, as an enemy that richly deserves to be destroyed. There's no argument about that. The problem is, if you want to destroy Hamas, how do you go about doing it? And collective punishment that involves 2.2 million people is not a very popular way to do business, and particularly at this point in time, because the whole region is seething with anger over the attacks on the civilians in Gaza. There's no debate in the rest of the region about who's responsible. It's Israel. So you have the Israelis and all of their neighbors talking past each other. We are in a position to somehow or another address that and move this out of the realm of inevitable regional war into something more manageable. But there doesn't seem to be any interest in doing so.
The United States moving aircraft carriers, additional assets.
So yes, I mean, of course, Israel is not interested at this moment to negotiate, to come to any kind of leniency in terms of how they want to deal with the situation with the Gazan people. They're still bombarding them. 7,000 Palestinians are dead, and a lot of them, if not most of them, are children. So you can imagine how arrogant they have become and relentless they have become. This is going to be a huge problem for Israel, because as they go further and tries to do a ground invasion in the coming days, then of course, as we know, that Hamas will get involved and Hezbollah will get involved. And once Hezbollah gets involved, obviously then US will not sit idle. They will strike Hezbollah and Iranian targets. In fact, they are already striking. They are destroying targets, Iranian targets in Syria. And therefore, it is going to be a all-out war in that region. And this is what this military personnel is saying, that this could be actually the end of Israel if a war breaks out in the region. Because today, the Muslims are a lot more united than what happened with the Arab-Israel war a few decades ago. Today, Muslim nations, countries, leaders are a lot more organized than what they were in the past. Let's take a listen from him.
That's into the region. You make the point that, you're right there involved in this. This is a very dangerous prospect for the United States.
Oh, it is. People don't seem to understand that today's Middle East is radically different from the Middle East of 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. The last major war was the 73 war, where Egypt and Syria attacked Israel, and Israel ultimately prevailed, although it was from time to time touch and go. Today, the Arab states are far more, I would argue, cohesive. The governments are stronger. They have more technology at their disposal, and there's a greater willingness to weigh in collectively. And today we're also talking about Turkey and Iran as playing a major role, and as a result, Russia. Russia cannot sit idly by if Iran ends up being attacked by us. It will feel...
Basically, this personnel, ex-military personnel, he is arguing that today attacking Iran means attacking Russia. That's how he's connecting. That's how he sees this relationship between these two countries. How will you feel? Let me know in the comment section below. Do you think if Iran is attacked, it will mean Russia is under attack? Let me know in the comment section below. To me, looks like it will depend. If Russia sees benefit, if they see an opportunity to harm or to destroy USS targets in the Middle East, their army base, their military base, without having to face too severe consequence, then I think Russia, Putin, will be very, very calculative, and he will do that. Go ahead and order that strike on U.S. military forces if in case Iran is being targeted and their elite groups. But that is something I think very, very conditional. But according to this individual, this military personnel, he is saying that no, if Iran, you are targeting Iran, if you're targeting that country, that means you are targeting Russia. Just like if you're targeting Israel, you are targeting US. That's how he is seeing this relationship. But definitely, this is a very, very risky business, regardless of what happens. Israel, they are now struggling. They are being cornered in the Middle East. As Douglas McGregor, he himself said, there is really no help for U.S. unless Israel will step in. Except Israel, there is no military help for U.S. So U.S. would not want to really get deep into this conflict. They would try to kind of like hit and run and try to bring stability in the region, because it is going to be U.S.'s interest to have stability in that region. So this is what he's aiming for, Joe Biden and his administration. Let's take a listen more.
Feel obligated to intervene because the Iranians have supported the Russians against the Ukrainian proxies. So this has the ingredients in it for a very major war. Now we're escalating across the boards. We seem to think that escalation works. We've tried that in Ukraine. We've escalated and escalated and escalated, and today Ukraine is in ruins. My great fear is that if this regional war unfolds as I think it might, there may be no Israel at the end of it.
See?
Yeah, you're right. You write in your piece that Israel could become the next Ukraine if we don't watch out. How do you mean?
Well, first of all, Hezbollah that sits up in the north is not simply backed by Iran, but we estimate they have 100 to 150,000 of their own fighters. Plus, some estimates are between 130,000 and 140,000 rockets and missiles, of which at least 40,000 are extremely precise. Now, there's enough armament in Hezbollah to destroy half of Israel.
Wow.
Hezbollah has made it clear that if, in fact, the Israelis march into Gaza with the objective of rooting out Hamas and without regard, frankly, to the loss of life there, and, let's be honest, if you're going to march into a city and fight, the notion that you can pick and choose your targets is absurd. So the loss of life will be enormous. This is the catalyst for a regional war. And the Iranians have said it. The Turks have said it. Everyone has said this is unacceptable. King Hussein, or not Hussein, but Abdullah in Jordan gave a brilliant speech in Cairo.
In fact, King Abdullah in the past, even though he doesn't have that kind of a military power, but nevertheless he did make mention back in the month of April, when we have seen the Zionists, they're violating Masjid al-Aqsa. He said that, guys, stop doing that. And then when Masjid al-Aqsa was under tremendous threat from the Zionists, he actually, King Abdullah, I'm talking about him, he actually said the word that if you violate more, if you cannot respect or abide by the rules, then we will have no other choice but to go to war with you. So he did set a red line. Obviously, his red line means nothing for Israel or for US. But nevertheless, he is very, very concerned and very, very involved in this whole situation. And Jordan will play a big role if there is a regional war breaking out. And they will be, of course, supporting Erdogan. They will be supporting Egypt and Jordan. They will be coalescing with each other and try to attack Israel. But of course, right now, Sisi, he is not saying much. He is keeping it quiet. And there is a protest going on in Egypt. People are actually coming out protesting against Sisi's stance on this issue. They're asking Sisi to take a much more strong position against Israel. And I'm pretty sure if there is more protest, more people coming out, then Sisi will have no choice but to do something and perhaps stop or ask Israel to come to the negotiation table and stop attacking the Palestinian, or could be a permanent solution that Egypt will be looking for. Who knows what the situation will be, but of course Egypt will eventually side with Jordan, Turkey, if there is a regional war. And this is why this person, Douglas McGregor, is saying that Israel may not even exist.
Explaining that he shared the Israelis' horror at what had happened to them and thought that they had responded reasonably under the circumstances, but said collective punishment that involves 2.2 million people and driving them out of their homes and into the desert is simply unacceptable.
Yep.
This is an impact.
I mean, if they do drive them out, if they do drive them to the Sinai region, I'm talking about Israel, and they take that kind of drastic measure, you can easily understand that the situation will be escalating so much that it will become very vicious for Israel and the people of Israel to live inside of their country, because it will be then surrounded by people who are out there to get Israel. If they push out these Palestinians, these Gaza's residents, they are going to go out maybe with a very happy face, but then they will take up arms to fight and to recapture their land, their bases. I have no doubt about that. So we will have to find out and see.
That's because we have a full court press in the United States to emphasize why we should be doing this, why we should be co-belligerents with Israel. And that's effectively what we're becoming in a very real sense. And that puts us at risk of confrontation with Iran, with the Turks, and with Russia.
Israel over the weekend saying that they will consider civilians who are in the northern part, remain in North Gaza, terrorist accomplices, quoting. The Israeli military has told Palestinian civilians living there that if they don't evacuate south, they will be considered an accomplice in a terrorist organization. So trying to root out Hamas, going into these caves, this is going to be an absolute disaster. It's going to be, I mean, we've already seen how much of a disaster.
There is a viral video going on the social media where a Israeli army, I think he's an ex-army military personnel, and he basically said that if you want this war to end peacefully, then you need Hamas to get out of the country. So he's asking the Gazans people to push Hamas out of Gaza and hand them over. And he's saying that if you do that, then there will be peace deal. We will not attack Gaza. There will be no problem at all. And then he was challenged by this reporter based, I think he's in UK. He basically challenged him. So you mean, he was telling him, so you mean that if Hamas is inside of Gaza, you will be punishing 2.2 million people. And the guy, he was completely dumbfounded. He was like, yeah, this is exactly what I said. But that's not what you should be doing, because this goes against any basic human rights, and you cannot impose collective punishment on everybody just because there are a few people who are fighting against you. I believe Hamas right now, they have 15 to 40,000 soldiers inside Gaza. Therefore, you cannot punish 2.2 or 2.3 million people just for those few number of Hamas military. This is going to be an end for Israel. If the way they are approaching, the way they are talking about this, I mean, the arrogance they have, the disregard they have against anybody, and especially the disregard they have about human rights, the Palestinian, the life of the innocent civilians, is not something that will bring them any good results. Rather, it is going to be a direct violation, and there will be consequences for that.
This is. And the Israeli infantry going in, talk about that part of it, going into these cave structures where Hamas has been holed up and living in these massive booby-trapped caves. I've talked to some Israeli sources who tell me that they are absolutely terrified what's going to happen to the infantry if they go in. They will be slaughtered by the structures that are underneath those cities and underneath North Gaza. Can you speak on that, the military strategy of this on the part of the Israelis?
Well, keep in mind that the Israeli Defense Force on the ground consists of a small portion of professional soldiers. The vast majority of people that are being mobilized are simply civilians. They're reservists. I've been told that these reservists are not nearly as well trained and prepared as their predecessors were in 1973. That means that they have even less training and less preparation than you would want for such a complex operation. But let's assume you have a couple of weeks to train. You're not going to reach the level of expertise that you would want to deal with what you're describing, these tunnels. And remember that the Israelis have destroyed most of this area in northern Gaza, which makes it much easier for Hamas to defend itself.
Absolutely. If you think about the strategy that Hamas can adopt, is going to be something very, very effective, because everywhere you look in Gaza, especially, most of it is completely being destroyed by Israeli forces already. So if Hamas is popping up from those, rubbles, if you like, and starts shooting at Israeli soldiers when they are inside of Gaza, if they do a ground invasion, then of course this is going to be a huge disaster, a catastrophe, a Nakba for Israel. But this is exactly where they're heading to, and especially with these bunkers, underground bunkers, Hamas can hide anywhere, and Israeli forces, IDF, would have absolutely no clue. Even with the bombing campaign, they're dropping bombs from fighter jets is going to be costing them a lot of money, because they have destroyed a lot of these buildings in Gaza, so they would not know where else to drop those bombs. So they'll be dropping bombs haphazardly without having any plan. And this is where it is heading to. There's going to be a financial cost for this war for Israel. And there is a growing pressure on U.S. and Congress not to help Israel financially. The military aid and the U.S. citizens, the taxpayers, they are actually waking up, and they're asking the government in U.S. and also in U.K. not to give free checks to Israel. In fact, Vivek Ramaswamy, the congressman who's going to be running for presidency from Republican Party, he said that I'm not going to be giving them a free check to Israel until they give us an answer for some of the questions that we have. So Israel is going to be in big trouble by the look of it. We do not know where it is heading, but I personally do think that if Israel does make these mistakes of going inside of Gaza, or if they want to fight with Hamas for a very long time, they will eventually be ruined, just like Ukraine. They are now